Okay. Good morning, everybody. Unfortunately, we have a little bit problems about Ethernet network. So in this case, we have to change our speakers. And instead of Abdurrahim Durmuş, unfortunately not available on Ethernet. Now I change my colleagues. She is also in the team of the GHG modeling. So it's very good position for the women participations. All right. Good morning, distinguished participants and colleagues and guests and my friends. And it's a great pleasure to welcome you all to this very important event because, as you know, this year is a new NDC cycle. So in this case, we will share some experience about the NDC preparations and to develop some develop the new GHG modeling systems in Turkey, and also we establish a team, we establish an infrastructure. Infrastructure is very important, not just only physical. It's a capacity building of all my colleagues and my directorate of Turkey. Today's session, the topic is establish the country-specific GHG modeling framework. It will focus on in particularly Turkey has developed its own national greenhouse gas emission model system to support the preparation of the or NDC, second NDC. As we all know, as I mentioned, this year is very important and crucial and critical milestone in the NDC cycle. So countries are expected to submit their new NDC reflecting enhanced ambitions in line with the Paris Agreement targets. So at this important moment, science-based and data-driven policy making is more essential than ever, and modeling serves as a bridge between technical analysis and policy decision making. We have good experience in Turkey. Turkey experience in building its own GHG modeling framework shows the power of national ownership, institutional cooperation, and long-term vision. This model is not only support the new NDC update, but also lays the groundwork of long-term strategies toward to our net zero target. With that in mind, we are honored to host our speakers today to share their perspective and experiences. Now let me brief introduce our speakers before we begin our discussions. And now, unfortunately, Abdurrahim Durmuş not available on the Ethernet. So instead of him, Abdurrahim Durmuş, and we changed the speakers. And she's my colleagues and an expert of Department of Greenhouse Gas Mitigation Policies at Presidency of Climate Change of Turkey. She led Turkey's NDC preparation process and will share reflection on Turkey's GHG modeling efforts. And second speakers, he has a big reputation about in this area, about developing GHG modeling systems. And he is leader of CCG modeling team supporting Turkey and program director of this initiative. He has played a key role in advancing global energy and climate modeling. And Professor Havos will share his perspective on Turkey's, in particular in Turkey, on Turkey experience in this context. Third and last speaker, Miss Marcela Jaramillo. She is Executive Director of 2050 Pathways Platform with extensive international experience in helping countries design and implement long-term and low emission development strategies. She will share reflections in general and in particular Turkey's ongoing efforts in this area. And unfortunately, we have some Ethernet problem. It's not based on our pavilion, so it's logistical problems, unfortunately. So in this case, Ayşegül Selışık will not able to join us in this session. And we will begin with Turkey's modeling experience, presenting an overview of technical frameworks and coordination behind the national model. And Elif, she is my colleague, Elif Polat. Please, could you, and my question to you is about the key components and design principles of Turkey country-specific GHG model, and please share with us how the directorate ensured institutional coordination and national ownership throughout its development. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Professor. Distinguished colleagues and partners, good morning. It's a great pleasure to be part of this distinguished speakers and our moderator. It's a last minute change, but lucky me to be part of this journey. And I will explain to our journey on the national experience on the climate country-specific modeling. As you know, 2025 is a milestone under the Paris Agreement. Countries should submit their second NDC, NDC 3.0, and called Turkey has submitted our second national determined contribution, which set 42% emission reduction compared to business as usual reference scenario. And now back to our topic. After become of the Paris Agreement, party of the Turkey become a party to Paris Agreement, and we immediately start work on this update our second NDC. Core of the NDC GHG projection, one of the main important issue for us. At that time, we conducted our GHG emission modeling through the international collaboration and with the international project. And this helped us to arrange and develop directly to work by national experts. And based on that work, we submitted our updated NDC before the COP30. And following this submission, we focus on turning our targets into the implementation for the make it real. This end, we prepared two key national documents. One of climate change mitigation strategy and action plan, and other one is the long-term climate strategy for 2053. When these milestones were completed, we again start to update our second NDC. One and main question for us, what we need to, how we can improve our approach for the 2035. And we already has a solid regulation for this issue. However, we need main important issue to national GHG emission modeling for the Turkey, specifically for Turkey. And we work on 7 key sectors: energy, industry, transport, LULUCF, agriculture, and waste. And our national experts specifically focus on each sectors. Beyond that, Turkey has well-established institutional coordination. As our moderator mentioned that, we have Climate Change and Adaptation Coordinator Board, and our ministry is the chair. And our department also coordinating body for the UNFCCC and the climate change policies. And another important point is the Paris Agreement. Country is expected to submit their NDC each 5 years. But for us, during the 2 years, we submit our first NDC and then we update our second NDC and we follow the global commitments. And deepening the external and then during the first NDC preparation, we realized that we need country-specific modeling. And then we decided to enhance our national capacity, national modeling capacity, and national expert capacity. At that time, we were searching for the expert to help us to develop our model. And then we met with the Marcela first from 2050 pet-based platform, and she suggested that CCG is a team and could provide them national modeling for you. And then we contact with this team, and they are so ambitious, so supportive, and then we have a so special contract with them and directly start because we don't have so much time. We have a tight timeline, and then we just directly start without any promise, anything. They were ambitious, we were ambitious, and directly we start. Overall, this framework, CCG team will develop for the model for us. And they finish our demo model and they visit us for the training to explain the model for our national expert. And then directorate set this model and our national expert start to run the model with the CCG team together. And after all this procedure, and we made a lot of meeting with the stakeholder. Main important issue for us, the stakeholder engagement, and we are coordinating body. We have responsible ministries. We discuss all data with them. Sometimes we didn't find reliable data. The CCG team help us for the provide international data, or sometimes we use expert judgment for this issue. And then now our directorate has a national model, national NDC projections, and really good and so specific model for the Turkey to improve what you need to align with all these climate policies. And finally, before the COP, United Nations invite our president to announce their NDC during the New York Climate Summit. And then our plan directly changed. We plan to announce our NDC in November, 2 months before we should announce our NDC. So we just directly talk with the CCG team, and they say that, okay, whatever, what you need, we can do together. During the 2 months, non-stop, we work together. And then finally, we set our new target, more ambitious, more transparent with the national modeling. Finally, of course, I would like to extend my gratitude to my director to support us. Every time he just say that, what you need, just tell me, I can give all promise to you, just establish our model. And also CCG team, Mark and the distinguished team always help us. And of course, Marcela, 2050 Pathways always support technically and financially for us. And once again, thank you so much for your listening. Wish you a successful and inspiring COP for this year.
Thank you very much for your detailed information and to be last minute speakers. Thank you very much. So, as she mentioned, we have a board which is involve all ministries in Turkey and also in plus some institutions and some foundations. It's very important to take a decision in this board. So actually, firstly, after completed the modeling system, GHG model, I had a presentation to this board to convince them for taking target new NDC targets. Actually, in my opinion, the 42%, the percent of emission reduction mitigation in the mitigation action is not important. So in these modeling systems, in new model system, we change our bow as well, business as usual scenarios as well. Based on new scenario, in bow scenario, we change all, basic terms and all inputs as well. So because a previous bow is calculated based on the old technology targeting the 2012, and in new modeling systems we change the bow because we have a new technology in this field of the in the field of the renewable energy, in the field of the green technology and green transformation in industrial sectors as well. So thank you very much. Next, I would like to invite Professor Mark Howells, leader of CCG modeling team, to take the floor. Professor Howells, could you share how Turkey's approach compares internationally? And second question is about the lessons. What lessons from this collaboration could benefit other countries seeking to strengthen their modeling capacity? The floor is yours, please.
Thank you so very much. Climate Compatible Growth, or CCG, is a UK-funded core effort and program, and just want to acknowledge core support and so on, as well as from various partners. It's so humbling to be here and to listen to people talk about modeling in such an important and excited way. Without being able to put numbers together, it's impossible to mobilize policy at the right kind of levels. It's also impossible to mobilize the finance that's required for the change. And yet, for some reason, this really important activity often doesn't get the attention that it deserves. So, and with that, just wanted to say how humbled we are as a team in Climate Compatible Growth to be able to work with yourselves and 2050 Pathways platform as well. Elif said that they were ambitious and we were ambitious. I can say that that's completely true. And I'd like to come back to a point later on where it was very heartwarming for us to see the whole modeling activity and so on being driven and owned by the Turkish team. It's a real achievement. And as you heard, the time frame was very, very short. So hats off to everybody involved. So Elif, your team, Director Hassan, your team under you, Tom and Melinza and others in the group. Just want to acknowledge that. So in answer to your question, five quick points. The first is what Turkey did is really unique. It's a world first. They've developed an open source model to report all GHG emissions that goes out into the future. So no longer do you need lots of models and you try and put them together for your climate projections. This was done in one model, and it was done in an open source model, which again is important for some reasons I'll come to in a second. In terms of this leadership, it's important to note that Turkey is building on activities using the same modeling framework or a similar modeling framework that has been adopted in Bolivia, Ecuador, Cyprus, and a number of other countries. But in the Turkish case, this was developed further. So this is the most advanced modeling setup. We're translating all of this into online courses and other things. So these will be available for other countries that want to get into this space. And already there are a number of countries that are copying what Turkey has done, but in their national context. And so at the moment, we're working with the 2050 Pathways platform with Uganda, Botswana, Ghana, and in South Africa, there's a really special case happening there where the Presidential Climate Commission is using the South African version of the model that Turkey has put together to help all of the other government departments bring their policy planning into one space so we can have an integrated whole of government model. So what Turkey has done, building on what has come before, is a world first, and it's been set up so that others can pick it up, and others are picking it up in very meaningful settings. Open source is special. What the Turkish team have done allows them to do something that we call Euphoria, which is an acronym for being user-facing. I'll go through the acronym piece by piece. So the U is for user-facing. As you heard, the team were able to go out and do their stakeholder engagement in a way that enabled them to update the model very easily and so on. So this for us is very important. The 4 R's are for retrievable, reusable, repeatable, and reconstructable. That means that everything that the Turkish team has done is not going to be stuck on some consultant's laptop somewhere, but it's something in a workflow set up in their department that can be managed over time and grow. It's also the case that the analytics are interoperable, so you can use other tools and engage with other tools, and auditable. The auditable is really important. We use auditable or accountable. Nobody knows what the future is going to look like, and it's the case that things are going to change. But what we can do, which is important, is to be able to trace through where we got from the data to the planning through to the deals that get done at the end of the day. So from data to deal. One thing that was really heartwarming is that, we were working with the Turkish team under pressure and so on, and working very collaboratively. And I remember at one time we came back and we said, we've made some changes to the model that might be useful. Should we meet up and talk about them? Only to find that the Turkish team had made lots more changes to the model and were way ahead of us. And this is just lovely because it speaks to the ability to build capacity that is then owned by the country. It's not owned by externals, by external consultants, and so on. And I want to say just in that partnership piece is that we built a community around this type of modeling infrastructure. It would not have been possible to do this work in the first place without the 2050 Pathways platform, without the international partnerships component of climate compatible growth, without amazing partners in government. But taking a step forward and looking forward, What we're really interested in being able to do is to take this amazing experience in Turkey and some of the other countries that are doing the same, and creating a space where others can pick this up and run with it. So we have nationally owned, nationally determined contributions, national modeling that can be updated to meet the national development pathways of the countries involved. CCG is composed of a set of leading universities. We're based out of Loughborough, but we include Imperial College, UCL, Cambridge, and Oxford. We'd be delighted with the 2050 Pathways platform and so on to work with others. But we've been, really had an amazing privilege of being able to work with the Turkish team and to be able to see such an amazing outcome. All of the things you've done are all of the things we hoped for as academics when we were getting started would be achievable. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mark. It's my pleasure. I'm very honored to hear from your words, your this sentence, motivated sentence for my modeling teams. Thank you very much for your insights and highlighting how Turkey's work connects with international best practices as well. Maybe we can collaborate we can make some collaborations between some countries, between some other partnerships to develop this modeling system together. Thank you very much. And following Turkey's modeling experience and insights shared so far, it's also important to recognize the role of global platforms and partnerships that support the transformation of technical progress into real policy action and bring countries together toward a common goal, a sustainable and climate resilient future. Now, I am delighted to welcome Ms. Marcela Geramillo. She is, I mentioned before, she is Executive Director of 2050 Pathways Platform. So I have some questions, two questions especially, based on your experience. What are the key factors that enable modeling efforts to collect effectively support and alignment between long-term strategies and NDC? Second is about that how can platforms like 2050 Pathways platform further strengthen countries' modeling capacities to integrate long-term goals into near-term climate commitments? It's Florida's.
Thank you so much. Really honored to be here. Very happy that you created this space to have this very valuable conversation and to share an in-country experience that I think is very valuable for many countries that are looking at this type of work. So we are the 2050 Pathways Platform. We are a multi-stakeholder initiative that has been launched just after the Paris Agreement to create a space to support countries on how to advance long-term planning. So how can we respond to this question of what the transition means, what this 1.5 objective, what climate resilient means, which is a complex question and it has many, many angles to it. So how can we come all together? What are the tools, the approaches? And that is our role, to help countries to try to find those approaches and to work with partners, experts, and the whole community around this so we enhance our capacity to answer difficult questions that have impacts in our economic approaches, on our social objectives, etc. So I'm very pleased to be here and for you to create this space. It's already very, very valuable. So talking to some of your questions. So this element on how countries are looking at LTS and DC alignment and the use of modeling and analysis to answer this question. So I think this year was actually a very relevant year into how countries are looking at integrating the climate planning in the countries. since they were updating their NDCs. It was the year also in which we have the largest number of long-term strategies in place, 79, and many more under development. So really this year we had a really interesting opportunity to look in the countries and understand how do we bring all of these different instruments together? What are the roles they are taking into informing action? And particularly, how can we continue to do this better? Because as we all know, it was very challenging. Many countries have found it very hard to update their NDC, to bring everyone around. And I have to say, it has been harder, but also it has been deeper and wider. The level of engagement that is happening in the countries, the level of work that is happening in there, is definitely been increasing, but it's still challenging. So here is where I think this element of building the internal government capacity has come up as something absolutely essential. And you already saw that. We already were talking about that last year. You were already seeing this is what we're going to need, because it's very clear that it's unsustainable for countries to continue to just do NDCs in an ad hoc way. It has to be integrated into the national decision making. And for informing the national decision making, as you already shared with us, to be able to speak with the policymaker making the decision, it is important to come with credibility, with robust science and data that can give the basis for making the discussions on policy making. So it is very clear that the direction of travel, and actually what we hear from many of the countries that we support, and we had the opportunity to have 39 member countries to support more than 60 countries in these processes, so we heard a lot of them, is the way forward is we need to build our in-house capacity. We need to enhance our capacity to analyze data. And very importantly, not only because of the NDC cycle and the need for ambition, we need to remain responsive because the global economy changed quickly, because technology changed quickly, because data changed. So it's not something that we do once every now and then. It's actually a tool, the analytical elements and the models, is something that needs to be engaged and informing decision-making constantly. We were just talking about actually we need to have an update yearly so we can quickly see, do we need to adjust? Do we need to consider something else? We have new information. Can we assess what can we do in this case? So I think this is actually very valuable because it's really taking us into a new age of really planning. And I think a key element of really integrating climate planning and development and socioeconomic decision making. So in terms of actually something that you mentioned, infrastructure is very important for the transition, but that also includes infrastructure in the institutions, in the governments, in the wider government. So when you're building modeling capability, you're not building modeling capability just to assess a specific NDC. You want the modeling capability to be there to help you assess that NDC, but you want the modeling capability to be able to assess the longer term perspective, because there are many transformations for the transition that have a really long time horizon. Infrastructure, transport, they have 20, 30 years planning horizon. So there are a lot of considerations that you need to take into account to be able to make decisions now that are far beyond the time frame of an NDC. So when building the infrastructure to analyze this information, it is important to build an infrastructure that is fit to informing the transition and to inform decision now and new NDCs with the bigger picture, with the bigger context. We are seeing countries now more and more doing this integration, NDC LTS alignment. It is important to understand where are we missing something? Where are we missing an opportunity that we can actually grasp? Or when are we locking ourselves to something that is going to be very difficult to then change in 5 or 10 years, right? So we are seeing this as a progression, and we are very happy to actually see also Turkey now integrating this and building their blocks. You know, you started, let's build this modeling capability. Let's now make it more ambitious and more enhanced and connecting more sectors and more data. Now let's build the other layer to really be able to look at the whole horizon and understand how we are making decisions now for a sustainable future. That is, I think, very valuable. And actually also just to close and reemphasize a point that Mark was saying, this is definitely an example that many countries would like to take forward. We in the 2050 Pathways platform, we are very happy and honored to be able to support countries with financial support for doing technical assistance, which is essential. We know that the ability to implement will really depend on the strength of the institutions to be able to advance. So we're very happy to continue to provide this technical assistance that is targeted to where the countries need it more, but also to create a space for peer exchange. And I think here there is also a role that Turkey can also play, and has already been playing, but something that it can be enhanced. There is a really demand from countries for peer-to-peer, hands-on. It's not like theoretically, hands-on. How you did this? How can I integrate that? How can I advance it? And this is something that we will be very happy to continue to create spaces for that, and to bring more experts and communities to help and advance in that direction. So we are definitely seeing a role not only on the financing and the support, but enabling those spaces for exchange and learning.
Thank you, Marcela. Thank you so much for your perspective on international collaborations in supporting long-term climate actions, and in particularly supporting us in this process, during this process. Thank you very much. Before closing this session, I would like to take a moment to briefly reflect on the key messages from today's discussions. First is, actually, we have seen that developing a national GHG modeling framework helps translate long-term climate goals, targets in concrete to make climate action valuable, and concrete national action especially. And thank you very much, because during this process we got a good experience and also reputation. So Turkey's experience shows that national ownerships together with international collaboration can build a robust, transparent, and policy relevant modeling system. So, because if you deliver the outputs based on the scientific data, so it's very easy to convince the policy makers as well. We have also heard about the valuable contributions of the CCG and the pathway to 2050 pathway platforms, building collaboration, and I understand we need make more collaboration, international collaboration, because we are all of us, a warrior for the against fighting against the climate change and consequences, negative consequences of the climate change in the social security, economic security, and so on. As you know, this year is very important, 10th anniversary of the Paris Agreement. In this new, and that means new NDC cycle. So Turkey's experience provides valuable lessons, reminding us that collaboration and commitment are key to align national climate actions with getting net zero target. Thank you very much for joining us. Actually, I think we have maybe a chance to question, maybe 3 questions. If there is anyone. Professor Ümit Şahin.
Thank you. Thank you, Hocam. And thank you very much for this very interesting panel. Actually, I'd like to ask 2 or maybe 1 question together to the experts. As far as I understand, is a model like a bottom-up model, right? So what is your main constraint? Because as we know that Turkey has 2053 net zero target. So what is the constraint for the next 30 years or so to reduce emissions in a way? So is this a carbon budget, or is this possible to use any also top-down approach like a carbon price? So this is a little bit technical curiosity, because we do in our Islam Policy Center, we also work on models, but our models are mostly bottom-up only models. So can you explain this a little bit? Thank you.
After response.
I can start with some reactions also based on global experience, but maybe you want to dive into Turkey's scenario results in particular. But what we have seen in majority of countries that we've been supporting in this process is that the bottom-up approaches are quite powerful, because they are able to really grasp the reality of different sectors. The different sectors have different dynamics, different stakeholders, different regulations, different players on the market. And it's very essential to be able to understand those different players in the market and to be able to see what are the changes that may be needed. Is it a new business model approach that we need to look at? So for example, energy is a very centralized system, and renewable energy tends to be much more decentralized. Well, what does that mean for maybe new ways of business models? And what does that mean in terms of new regulation that may be required? Similarly, in transport, is it about, which is usually a big challenge actually, on who owns that? Is it the city? Is it the national level? Who are the players in there? And what are the regulations for procurement of tariffs that will make the business actually for example, electromobility? So in our experience, is actually the understanding of the real economy of each sector that is able to inform decision-making and policy-making, tagged with the modeling, which help to understand where priorities may be in terms of bigger gains on GSG, but also cost benefits and maybe other socioeconomic indicators. And what is the scale? Like, what is the scale that we're talking about, so we can bring the partners or the different stakeholders to the table to inform what is the level of transformation? Are we talking about how many bus lines in which main cities? We've seen this is the way many countries that have been able to click some transformations have done a lot of progress. For example, in Chile, that happens with the transport sector, which I think it was very important. They now have one of the biggest electromobility outside of China in the world. I think it's happening actually in Dominican Republic now on the energy sector, in a similar process supported actually as well with CCG and other MDBs. And it's happening in a few other countries. I think Egypt also has a focus diving in some sectors. And I think it really is a way in which we're seeing more progress. There is, of course, the conversation on the carbon pricing, and this is maybe more of a political conversation that sometimes a little bit disconnected from these other dynamics of the economic sector. And so far, we haven't seen it making big changes in many countries. I know it's a lot of work on that, but the changes where we have seen a drastic change, or at least in our experience, has come from this bottom-up approach.
Thank you for your questions. I would like to highlight, before to choose our national modeling, we search for another similar countries model. And in terms of our national circumstances and conditions, we take into account for all economic measures, all dynamics to choose this model. And especially, we would like to concern about some kind of sectors is, okay, we would like to reduce emission maximum, but some sectors is so special, especially agriculture. We should protect our food security. And transport also, Marcela mentioned that really important to reduce emission. We are really good at the energy sector, industry, but agriculture sector, we protect. We are developing country, our population, our GDP. That's why according to our national circumstance, best model, for now best model, and allow us to improve this model to integrate other issues like ETS modeling. As you know, we have a climate law, and the secondary legislation on the ETS process is going, and then we will integrate these issues, SDGs, and other economic measures to our model. That's why this model allow us what we need to do at. Thank you.
You've said everything that needs to be said. So, but I would like to point out that the tools that we used, they're called Osmosis, the open source energy modeling system, and we did this in something a framework that we call CLUES, which is short for climate, land, energy, water, and so on. And so we could capture the whole emissions from the whole economy. I just want to point out that all of the tools, there are training materials and other things are available online for people to use and download. But the point I want to make is that these are model generators. So depending on what your problem is, you can think about how to define them in a way that's good for your circumstance and to do it transparently, which is something that is not easily done. Thank you.
Thanks very much. This has been a fascinating conversation. I had a question specifically for Elif. Can you tell us a little bit more about the process through which the capacity was transferred from the CCG team to the Turkish team? It seemed to happen very fast, and I wondered how it was achieved so rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. End of the last year, we decided to establish our national model, and then we contact with the CCG team. Just 8 months, we have to understand, choose the model, establish the model, understand the model. From December to May, we had more than 20 meetings with the team online. And then they visit us 2 weeks, one of online, one of in person. They train us, and so interactive. They explain us in patient what we ask. They directly explain to us. And then we have already national capacity. We have really good engineers and other experts, but we don't know how to use the model. Here is the CCG team's role is this, to explain us how to run the model. And then, as I mentioned previously, in this November, we plan to finish our model, but in September, we should announce our model. We facilitate our process. And after May, again, each week we had a regular meeting. And then we increase our meeting number to 2, 3. It doesn't matter what time in the New York, in Turkey, in other countries. We didn't sleep during the 2 months. And then we completely finish our model, and our national expert directly understands. Sometimes another responsible ministries has some request to add new data, change the data. And it doesn't matter, we should do this. But I have a really good director and the head of department and the CCG team. What they need, what we want, we just do it. During the almost 8 months, we complete. And then we are really good. And the CCG team still support us. Sometimes we need some financial or technical additional support. And then Marcela has a really important role in this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is any question? No. Sorry.
I just want to know the website that can look for materials
So if you go to climatecompatiblegrowth.com and you'll find the material there. And then Marcella for the 2050.
Is 2050 pathways with the numbers 2050 pathways.org.
You have card. You have card.
Thank you very much for the exciting conversation. Mine, I just want to understand about the model because it appears it's the work that you have been doing is just to use the model that was already been developed, which in my view is like you just customized according to your country. Yeah, so with now the changes that happens frequently, how do we, considering that it's a model that you just change the parameters, how can one build now to include the changes that are happening because they happen so fast? Do you still require for help? And the other one was like, for my country, if I want to get that support, how can I go about it? Thank you.
So as I was saying in my talk earlier on, this is a model generator. You can make a model for any case, add new sectors, add new data, add new parameters even. And we we were really surprised because this was a pressured project. And we made some changes to the model. And as I said, we spoke to the Turkish team only to find out they'd made many more changes to the model, which was great. So we had to actually go back and see how to incorporate our small additions. But they're in a place where they can run with that model completely without us.
Thank you for your questions. Additionally for the Mark, we didn't complete our model. It means not completed. We have already model, but it's allow us to add land, water, soil, and other issues with the energy sector. And also we will add this issue, the ETS system, and then climate models for projections, because we have a target for the 2053 for net zero target. We should reach this target. That's why this is allow us to improve this model. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have to complete these sessions. Thank you very much for joining us, supporting us, for your comments, valuable comments. Thank you very much. We need to shake.
So, hello everybody. It's nice to be here. Thanks for the invitation. As Renewable Energy Association Eurosolar Turkey, we are organizing this side event. And I would like to first ilk afişi koysun. Hi, hello, how are you? Nice to see you. Okay.
Hi.
So what we are going to do today as a side event, we have speakers two from Canada, one from UK, and the lady
side,
over
I have
here.
trouble hearing.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Same for you?
Yes, hello Oliver, how are you?
Okay, so it's my problem then.
Can you hear me, Oliver? Yes, Ece is here. Oliver is here.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Ece is here, and also Clement is here. Oliver, can you hear me?
No, I can.
Oh my God. Now you can. Okay, thank you. So, okay. Now, in this side event, we have 4 speakers and myself. What we are trying to do now, we are talking about 2050 European Green Deal. So this means about 30 years away, 25 years away. So anything to be decided for the future, we need to make a good planning. For planning means modeling. We need to understand. It's also in your families, for example. You need to plan the future with your children. If you don't do it, you don't know where they go and what happens, okay? So it's a planning, it's a human quality, and we need to do this. We need to talk with each other. We need to have the stakeholders involved, and European Green Deal says that yes, we need to engage the citizens. Additionally, stakeholders' information expectations should be included. So this is something nice for human quality, okay? And now over here we have the real experts globally active. Clement, Ban, Özdemiroğlu, they are really dealing with different aspects of modeling and relations and interactions with human beings' activities in nature. Myself also, I will present you now, trying to do as a PRIMA project, Mediterranean PRIMA project. You know, the water is a problem. Water is a problem. We need to use less water and for the next generations. And we need to have healthy food. And the energy we should use renewable energy. So with this, using less water, producing healthy food with renewable energy, we can not make too much damage to the ecosystem. So in PRIMA projects for Mediterranean, we have water, energy, food, ecosystem nexus. So thinking things together. Over here, we are expecting Ece to tell us about how to include GDP in this planning process. And also, Clement is doing good work in modeling in Canada, doing the energy transition. And our friend Oliver is doing globally model activities, modeling with their students and activities. So altogether, you will have a nice overview of what's happening for planning the future with the information of the future. Okay? So, and our friend over here, Roberta, is a part of the Global Wind Energy Council and also Global Renewable Alliance. So what they are doing, they are using renewable energy technologies, and it's becoming the cheaper and widely used. So she is going to tell us how renewable energy can manage to contribute to go to renewable energy systems without damaging the nature. So what to do with all these blades and etc. Okay, now thank you very much for accepting the attendance. Now I will just first mention about what we are doing in a village regarding this water, energy, food ecosystem nexus. So we always talk about nexus, considering not one thing, but thinking together with ecosystem and water, using less water and healthy food and renewable energy for needed. Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next one. So I will show you maybe for later you can look at it. Website. Okay, that's what we are doing since 16 years. Renewable energy, 100% renewable energy conference, and you should feel free to attend this. And this is in Turkish, but biraz yavaş geri alalım. Take it back up. Tam yukarıya geri alsın biraz. Okay, so that's in Mediterranean climate friendly agriculture. How to do this? That's the project, PRIMA project. So aşağıya doğru in biraz. Okay, so what we will do over here, aquaphonic with fish we have. With fish, we feed the fish, and what they produce, ammoniac, and with bacteria, we convert it to food for the plants, and without using any artificial fertilizers, in a greenhouse, I will show you now and explain, we produce plants healthy food with traditional seeds, not the seeds genetically modified things. And then we have insect, black soldier fly we are producing to feed the fish. And we have vermicomposting producing fertilizers for us. So it is a circular thing. In a 400 square meter, we are producing healthy food, but we need energy for pumps, etc. And we have agri-photovoltaics. Now it's very common. Agri-photovoltaics, under it we have our agriculture. So that is part of this WEF Nexus project. Okay, bunu kaldıralım. Sunuşa geçelim. Let's sunuş. Sunuşu koysun benim. Okay, so now I will just briefly mention about it. You know the website, you can go later. So the idea is over here, pushing the frontiers of climate smart agriculture in the Mediterranean. That's the idea, because we look for the impact of climate smart and water saving frontier agriculture of the WEF Nexus in arid Mediterranean regions. Over here we have is a 3 years project. We have partners, 10 partners from 8 countries. We have hydroponics, aquaponics, insect farming, vermiculture, vermicomposting, agrophotovoltaic. As a nexus, that's the idea. Addresses challenges in traditional agriculture, produces food security, and reduces pressure on resources. So nature we need to protect. I mean, we cannot do anything. And what is nexus? Over here we have water. To reduce the water consumption, we need to reduce the energy, use renewable energy, and produce healthy food. And we know that about 8.7 million people die each year from air pollution. Air pollution. So these are very important. And of course, the basic where we all live is ecosystem. When we damage the ecosystem, or not to damage the ecosystem, is not a favor to nature. We must do it that way. Otherwise, 30,000 people die in earthquake if you make houses not good for the something. So in being in harmony with nature, we need to have this nexus approach. Okay, the objectives of this project to demonstrate all Mediterranean region the socioeconomic and ecological impacts of this WEF Nexus approach. What do we get if we do it? How much does it cost? To promote the adoption of frontier agriculture for improved livelihoods and resource management. The countries, Italy, Israel, Jordan, we have 8 countries. And we have demo sites. Our demo sites, I will mention, includes all WEF Nexus thing. The idea is to improve the livelihoods, food security, resource efficiency. We had a kickoff meeting in Istanbul. These are the people active in this project. Now, and over here, circular frontier agriculture we are talking about. What is it? Insect farming, feed, fertilizer, fish, vegetable, aquaponics, food, organic waste. So we have bokashi compost, for example. This attracts black soldier fly. So they make larvae. We heat this with fish, fed with this, and their residues become the plant food. So this is a real nexus what we are trying to produce. Okay, now I will just go a little bit quickly on this, and I will show you. And the objective and outputs we expect from this project: inform about, promote, and communicate the project's activities for the people, for farmers, villagers, attract and engage relevant stakeholders, facilitate and enhance dialogue. European Green Deal asks this: please make citizens engagement, make involvement of the stakeholders. And modelers, without this information, they cannot really model what's happening. You know what I mean? Establish synergies with other initiative projects to exchange information, knowledge, and mobilize research. Okay, that's what we are doing. This is Balıkesir village in Havran, and it's the Madra Mountains. That's the village we have over there, and that's the setup. We have aquaponic fish, agri-photovoltaics, black soldier fly, and I repeated this. Of course, we are testing what we produce over there, and this is what we have produced from this project, from the food coming from the carp fish, 200 small carp fish, red beetroot, cabbage, Japanese cabbage, red chard, tomatoes, oily lettuce, and this is bokashi compost, what we are doing over there. And this is the vermicomposting in recycled refrigerators. And that's the site for our photovoltaic panels. They will be mounted like this. The green part is the reference. We plant plants in open air and under photovoltaics to see how they behave. Some plants need shade, some tomato wants sun, for example. So, okay. Okay, thank you very much. Now, this was what we did. This was a small example, but I believe that to make such examples, working examples, help in the future for the solutions. Now, I would like to give the floor to Clement. I think Clement, Ece will speak the last. That's how we designed it. And then we have the models from Oliver. Is that okay? Clement, Oliver.
All good.
Okay, and then Ece, then you will speak. Okay, the floor is yours, Clement. Please proceed.
Thank you. I'll share my slide.
Please also in 1-2 sentences introduce yourself, okay? What you are doing in general.
For sure. So can you confirm? I think you can see my screen, right? All is good?
Yes, we can see your
Amazing.
screen.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Dr. Tane, for inviting me. So I wish I could be here. Obviously, today is a snowstorm in Montreal, so very different climate. So my name is Edouard Clément. I'm the Executive Director of the Energy Modeling Hub, or EMH. We are a Canadian-based consortium of universities on a mission to connect modelers, policymakers, and experts to reinforce evidence-based policymaking in Canada. So today I would like to share our experience in establishing the EMH, which is a national initiative created to leverage energy modeling for evidence-based policymaking, and just as you mentioned in your introductions, to help our country do better planning over time to our pathway to net zero. So I think what I'll try to share today is a story of breaking silos, building trust, and making complex model accessible to for real-world decision, right, to a wide diversity of stakeholders. So why does it matter? So let me talk a little bit about the Canadian context. So let's begin with the obvious. Massive and rapid change is needed in Canada, as illustrated in this chart you can see here. We're comparing business as usual scenarios, that would be the top chart, with net zero pathway. So there's a lot of effort to be done here. Canada, like many countries, face the immense challenge of transitioning to a net zero while maintaining affordability, reliability, and equity within our country. So one example of this challenge, to meet our goal, we'll need to double or even triple our electricity production over the coming decades. And this must happen while electrifying different transport sector, heating, and industry as whole. To manage a transformation of this scale, we must be guided by evidence, by data, not instinct or ideology. So that's precisely where modeling plays a critical role. And maybe just a few more words about Canada. So energy system, it presents a distinctive context, right? It's highly decentralized. Each of our 10 provinces are responsible for their own electricity system and climate planning. In this environment, collaboration cannot be mandated. It must be cultivated. So you need to find a way to make those different stakeholders work together. So the EMH, the Energy Modeling Hub, which I represent, serves as a national reference center, working to connect this fragmented modeling landscape, which spans government, utilities, consultant, and academia. It also seeks to address an ongoing challenge related to data accessibility, transparency, and coordination. So, if we continue to the next one, so what is the role of modeling? So I'm sure most of you are already familiar with modeling and what it can and cannot do, and Olivier Ban will talk about modeling works they've been doing. But basically, modeling can be used with a variety of ways, right? So it allows us to simulate future scenarios, to test also the impact of different policy choices, and also to understand potential consequences of uncertainty in our modeling, in our world, right? Whether that's economic growth, technology adoption rate, or new regulation. Modeling helps us set targets, optimize resources, and engage stakeholders by making complex systems more visible and understandable. This is not as much as about informing decision as it is about improving conversation between different sectors of the economy. So modeling isn't just a technical exercise, it's a tool for navigating uncertainty with confidence. Sorry, moving on to the next one. So, but we do have challenge to make this happen. So there are different gaps in how we do modeling, and we're here to try to solve this. So modeling effort have been in Canada long time fragmented. There's some kind of fragmentation between government, consultant, and academics. Also, the governance of modeling itself is somehow weak, right? We don't always know which assumptions are used, how comparable results can be, and how to interpret uncertainties. And of course, data is often late, incomplete, or hidden. So these gaps undermine trust, waste precious resources and time, and weaken the connection between models and real-world decision. I want to also add that, energy models and well, all kind of models, really, climate model as well, are complex, right? We like to call them socio-technical beasts. They need to reflect the physical system, the physical world, but also economic behaviors and policy environments. So good models must be able to bridge technical precision with human and institutional complexity, which is very tough to achieve. So at EMH, we work at this intersection. We're trying to make sure these layers are represented and integrated. So the physical layer, the economic and behavioral layer, and also the regulatory and policy layer must work together and be part of any kind of good modeling exercise. So this was a long introduction to talk about EMH. So where do we come in? So we call ourselves as an independent reference center for energy modeling. We try to connect government, researchers, modelers, and communities, and make sure that what they do is transparent, usable, and impactful. So our mission is quite simple. We want to enable timely, evidence-based policymaking at all levels of government. We are composed for now of 4 Canadian institutions, but we work with most Canadian universities. We are funded mostly by a federal branch called Natural Resource Canada, but we also receive money from different private foundations that believes in this open source ethos and mission. And we are proud to announce that we've been recently approved as a technical partner of the International Renewable Energy Agency, ARENA, and part of their LTES, long-term energy scenarios networks, where we are contributing to knowledge sharing and best practice sharing. And today I'm happy to also talk about this work with you on this panel. So what you see here is a snapshot of our journey. So the key message is that we're still a very young organization, right? So there's been modeling works for many decades in Canada, but EMH was created a few years ago. So a previous initiative that was called the Energy Modeling Initiative was launched in 2019. And its goal was to map out Canada modeling ecosystem, identify the appetite for the gaps and the existing expertise across the country. So every country that wishes to establish a group like EMH should probably start like this by mapping, the existing player and the strength and try to identify the gaps. The Energy Modeling Hub, as I'm presenting today, really took off in mid-2022 with the onboarding of our core team and the launch of different foundational projects. In less than 3 years, we've gone from startup mode to becoming a national reference and must go to resources in Canada modeling landscape. I think the appetite was there, and we were able to benefit from this, of course. We just complete our phase 1, and as of April 2025, we officially launched phase 2 with confirmed funding until 2029, which gives us stability but also ambition to scale our impact. So the goal of EMH is not to replace what others do, right? We're here to complement it and to fill some of the gap that was identified in 2019. So it's really about building bridges between data holders, users, between government and academics, between modelers and policy influencers and policy makers. I like to think that we serve as a translator, as a convener, and as an enabler across the whole modeling ecosystem. We work with a wide variety of stakeholders. You see some of the name in the bottom, which make really this a very exciting exercise exciting works as well. So we have 3 strategic pillars. All of our work falls into some of those categories. To deliver our mission, first we want to be, we work on convening, networking, and collaborative engagement. So we bring together people who don't often speak to each other or don't speak the same language. Again, model developers, policymakers, data providers, utility researchers, NGO, etc. We do that via national forums, working groups, workshops, and those activities helps align perspective, surface common challenge, and try to foster a shared understanding of what good modeling must look like. We also, our second pillar, it's about capacity building, knowledge transfers, and rapid response. So modeling is useful if people really understand how to use it, what are the limitations, and how to interpret modeling results. So there's a need to build capacity around modeling as well. This is why we invest a lot in training and guides, documentation, workshop, and on support, etc. The goal is to create a wide range of user engagement and try to make sure that people can interact meaningfully with model results and tools. And our third pillar is about building open source models and data infrastructures. So we think that a key success factor is really to make those data and models available to the wide variety of stakeholders. So we support and maintain a suite of open source models and curated data sets. Those are public goods in Canada now. They are future use, documented, interoperable, and which always try to improve those models on a regular basis. We focus on transparency and accessibility. That's our main design criteria here. So I'm going to talk about the M3 platform in a minute and the coders data hubs, so you can see what this means for us. Let me focus a little bit more on the first pillar, the engagement part, convening and engagement. So this is a busy slide, but basically the key message here is that we believe that modeling is stronger when it connects the people who use it. Again, policymakers, analysts, and communities. This is why we try to build the space for dialogue and collaboration in Canada. So we have our flagship event, our annual forum, which brings together the whole Canada modeling community and policy community. We also host different regional events in every province. some workshops, and we do have a very interesting activity called the Multi-Model Comparison Forum. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. That helps align vision around modeling and compare results across teams and models in Canada. This is a business slide, but basically the bottom line is that for this to be working, you need to build this community of practice. And we are making sure to maintain an active inventory of models and modelers and experts. And our role is to connect people to those resources as well. The goal is also to making sure that modeling is credible, relevant, and connected to real-world decision. So I was in a conference last week in Bonn with Irina, and one of the presenters came with this tagline saying, you know, modeling is a team sport. And it really stuck to me. I think this is something that really defined what EMH is trying to do. And I think how the Canadian modeling community is now starting to work together. Another way to engage people in this works and to make sure that everybody aligns is to create some different types of technical advisory committees. So we've set up 3 technical advisory committees, one on data, one on open source models, and one on knowledge mobilization. And those committees are fueled by volunteer work from 50 experts across Canada that gives times and expertise to make some of those key objectives tangible and achievable for Canada. So they provide ongoing guidance on our work. They help us test tools. They make sure that the work stay aligned with the needs of the community. So it's very important to have people that comes from the field to give you feedback about your work, but also to be involved in actually designing modeling works, so it is adopted and accepted. So I mentioned that a minute ago, but one of the key events that we are also hosting, and this year will be our second iteration, it's called Multi-Model Comparison Forum. We brought over 25 different modeling teams from academia, private sector, government agency as well. Basically, we gave them a mission to model similar policies. We try to make them align on common assumptions and methods, and then we meet to compare results to see if where there's convergence and where there's divergence, and everybody learned from that. It's becoming a very, I think, interesting and successful event. So Olivier has been participating in this. And we're very proud with the engagement we have so far. And we will continue to maintain this as an ongoing platform over the next couple of years. The goal here, again, is to build trust and transparency. I think that everybody knows there's no silver bullet when it comes to modeling. There's no one single model that can do everything. I think it's very important to have a portfolio of tools that can do similar things, but also be able to compare and complement each other when you're trying to take those very important decisions that will influence your planning for the next 25, 50 years or so. On the second pillar, which is capacity building and knowledge transfer. So I think a key success is to make sure that you produce as much documentation and tutorial as possible, so every kind of stakeholders can interact with your models, or at least understand the limits and what they can and cannot do. We build documentation and tutorials to also help standardize how models are used and interpreted, and make sure that model is more accessible to a wider audience, right? So not everybody are able to operate models, so it's important to have some way of making this happen. So we have a rapid response services, which is also a key tools, not just for government, but for stakeholders who don't have the in-house expertise, right? Some NGO might want to test the policy, but they are not able to operate models, so they can come and see us, and we'll be sharing some of the results with them based on their own assumption. And basically, it's a service we're providing to the community. I think a big as part of our capacity building effort, we need to maintain a rich repository of resources. Our website is used for that. It's a central access point for all our resources. We have an inventory of model and experts, documentation centers, and direct access to two of our most valuable assets, the Coders data portal and the M3 open source modeling platform. So let me talk about the M3 platform. So by platform, here we mean it's a collection of tools, of guiding principle of connectors and of data, of course. So this entry platform is really part of our core strategy. We think that modeling tools should be transparent, accessible, and reusable. So we spend a lot of time in trying to maintain this suite of tools and data sets. Basically, it integrates tools for capacity expansion or integrated assessment tools like Silver, Copper, Temoa, Message IX, all open source models in Canada that want to be listed on the platform and want to be connected to the platform can be pushed here. We also maintain this curated data from coders, a shared workflow manager, and we provide an open source visualization tools called IDEA. Again, if you're interested, you should visit our website and you can download from GitHub any of those models, and as well as the visualization tools that can plug into your own models if you want to make this available to your stakeholders. So it's really about building a plug and play modeling toolbox that different stakeholders can pull from. A word about coders, because your model are as good as the data you can put into it. So this is a very strategic also initiative for us. So believe it or not, but there's very few publicly available open data in Canada when it comes to energy. So we are trying to centralize everything we find, and we work with different stakeholders to make sure that we have ready-to-use data that can be pushed into models. And data is not just about inputs; it's also about assumptions and how to translate policy into different triggers and parameters. So we do work with collaborators like Statistics Canada. They have this center called Center for Energy Information. But our goal is to translate or to prepare this data and clean it and ingest it so it's model ready, right? So this is where we play a role of aggregating this information so it can be pushed into models as well. So that's really part of our mission, to make sure we work with utilities and other data portal out there, and modelers can go in one place and find data they need for their modeling works. So what challenge are we tackling next? And I'm almost done, but basically we're trying to tackle 4 major challenges, and I think that might be true for different countries that are working on those big important questions. We need more data coverage, right? Both in terms of granularity, like regional and hourly details, and sectoral scope, right? As our models are becoming more complex, more refined, we need more data on buildings, transport, industry, and trade. So that's a big part of our work now. Secondly, we need to empower new stakeholders. So now we work a lot with academics and federal government, but we think province, municipalities, indigenous partners, and other NGOs must be able to meaningfully engage with modeling. So we're trying to make this accessible to them. We also work on improving model awareness and trust by helping users understand what models can and cannot do, and also trying to make sure that everybody aligned on transparency principle. And finally, we need to grow our community by reaching beyond academia to include civil society, media, and the private sector as well. So what makes EMH, I think, an interesting model that can be replicated elsewhere is that we break silo, we build transparency by design, and we try to focus on collaboration over competition. So going back to this idea of modeling being a team sport, I think we want to play a big role in this. We don't just run models, but we enable, we try to elevate the modeling discussion and the modeling capacity in Canada by providing tools, data, and shared platform. And the benefit is for everybody, right? So better informed policies, smarter public investment, faster, fair energy transition for Canada. So to conclude, I hope this show you a good summary of what we're trying to achieve. EMH is not a single model. It's really a collaborative ecosystem to support better decision making. We work to make modeling transparent, inclusive, and practical through open source tools and data. And of course, one of the key assets I think we're building here is a community of practice. That's really a key success factor to make sure that we deliver real results. We believe that by sharing methods and comparing notes and working collaboratively, it will go certainly much more faster. We hope this will inspire similar effort globally. Those slides can be made available. You can reach out to me if you want to know anything else about our work and if you want to collaborate. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for inviting me, Dr. Tane, and I hope this was useful. Thank you so much for your time today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Now we heard, thank you very much, Clement. What we have heard really how to approach a country-based modeling activities, and there are a lot we need to learn from this experience, accumulated knowledge with a hub, and it's open to everybody who has time and willingness to go in the solution direction. There is a valuable experience accumulated in Energy Modeling Hub. Thank you very much. Now, thank you very much. Finally, we take questions if there are at the end of your presentations. Thank you very much. Perfect. Now, I want to give the floor to Oliver Bahn. Now he's going to tell us about integrated assessment approach to assess world energy and climate policy options. When it comes to global things, there are some other parameters acting. I mean, in Canada, you have the local parts of Canada. Again, as in a family, you need to take everybody's information for decision making. In Canada, pieces, but when it's global, in our global prison, how to approach and take into consideration of everybody's information. So please, the floor is yours, Oliver.
Thank you, Dr. Turney. Can you hear me well?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
So I need to quickly introduce myself. My name is Olivier Bahn. I'm a professor in the Department of Decision Sciences at HEC Montréal, a business school part of the University of Montreal campus. I'm also the director of GERAD, a group for research in decision analysis, which is an inter-university research center in Montreal with about 120 members specialized in data and decision sciences. And what I'm going to present now is a specific class of models called integrated assessment models, and also our own IAM, it's called AdMerge, which is actually currently used within the MMCF of the Canadian ENH, as Edward mentioned. So I will go very briefly about IAMs, and then before concluding, present our own integrated assessment modeling effort with some results. So let me define first integrated assessment. AI is not artificial intelligence. In this context, it's integrated assessment, and it's basically an interdisciplinary approach. So the idea is to bring within the same framework different type of information, for instance, related to economy or to climatology. And integrated assessment models are simply computer tools to perform an integrated assessment. And over the years at GERAD, we have developed several IAMs, Bahama, TIAM in particular, and also contributed to the development of the MERGE platform. So the idea of IAMs is to provide an interface between climate science and policy at a global level. So in particular, IAMs have been used by the IPCC for the writing of their assessment reports. More precisely, IAMs can provide greenhouse gas emissions trajectories within specific scenarios. In the latest assessment report 6, it was the mention of SSPs, shared socioeconomic pathways, with 5 main scenarios, SSP1 to SSP5, covering a broad range of possible future, such as SSP1, kind of sustainable future, where the climate in 2100 would be with a radiative forcing of about 6 watt per square meter, And if you want at the opposite of the spectrum, you would have SSP5, still relying heavily on fossil fuel, with a radiative forcing of 8.5 by 2100. So IAMs can also be used to evaluate policy objectives, such as what would be the impact of having energy policies to limit greenhouse gas emissions. And for instance, if you have a so-called mitigation policies, if you are in a SSP5 world, you can go down to a radiative forcing of around 2.6 by 2100. Whereas if you are in a more sustainable future to start with, you can go to down to 1.5 watt per square meters. And actually what I like to do with my own IAM is to look at the interplay of climate strategy. In particular, what I'm going to show in a few minutes is interplay of mitigation and adaptation strategies. So the framework of the concept of IAM is to represent different aspects of the problem. So you have, if you look at the middle of the graph, you have the economic dimension, you have the energy system. Of course, you need a representation of the climate system. Some IAMs have a representation of the land system. If you look at the left part of the graph, lots of inputs: potential GDP, population growth, different sort of policies, economic, energy, climate, and many, many other assumptions. For instance, the technological progress in the various energy technologies. Typical outputs: economic outcomes, emissions trajectories, energy pathways, and if you have a land module, you have also land use changes. So same framework, but actually you have many, many IAMs. A small list here, and also to mention that the model we are developing at GERAD, AdMerge 1 and 2, are relatively newcomers in the game. This model can cover a small number of regions. So the world will be divided in a small number of regions up to relatively large, from 9 to 26 or even more. Can be distinguished also whether they model adaptation explicitly or not, whether they have, for instance, advanced technologies or approaches like carbon dioxide removal modeled explicitly or not, the way they model climate change impacts, and also, of course, the mathematical, the underlying mathematical structure, the modeling perspective, and so on. So the same type of framework, but actually the model can be very different from one another. So let me now jump to own integrity assessment effort based around the MERGE platform. So actually MERGE was developed at Stanford University by Alan Mann and his colleague. And over the years, I have contributed to the development of this platform, in particular by modeling technological progress in an endogenous way. And there was the MERGE, the so-called MERGE ETL model. So in a nutshell, four modules: one to develop, to model the economy, macroeconomic module; one to model
Yes, we cannot hear you. Oliver, we cannot hear you. Hello. Bağlantı mı gitti?
characteristic is we represent the energy technologies.
Okay.
So it can be specific technology like hydro plants, or in the model we have also at that time a series of so-called generic technologies like advanced carbon-free technologies. And the key here is that this enables to model the substitutions of energy carriers, energy technologies to abate over the time greenhouse gas emissions. The rest of the economy, it's another beast. It's a neoclassical macroeconomic approach some key characteristics. You look at maximizing the social welfare, you compute gross domestic product, among other things. So don't go in all the detail here. Climate modules, rather simple, 3 greenhouse gases, and you track emissions, concentration, radiative forcing, and then you compute the change in temperature. So this is like as an example of study done a couple of years ago with Merge ETL, looking at energy policies to avoid a tipping point in the climate system with a rupture of the Atlantic thermal line circulation. A more recent development, and that's AdMerge now, was to include adaptation strategies explicitly in the model. So if you look at, this is another representation of the model structure. If you look at this kind of pink violet box for the damage, we distinguish between gross market damage before adaptation and net market damage after adaptation, or so-called residual damage, which of course will impact your economic development. And this has been published in 2019 in the journal, the Energy Journal, actually. So now we are working on version 2 of this model, so AdMerge 2.0, with a new base year, a new regional disaggregation. Now we have 15 regions. Canada is standalone, United States, Mexico is standalone, Brazil is a standalone, and then we have blocks like Africa, Western Europe, and so on. Improve energy system representation. So now we have only explicit technology. So here what we have is something very classical in so-called energy model. It's a reference energy system. We track energy flows from primary energy into final energy. So again, specific technologies, either to generate electricity or to produce different fuels like hydrogen, for instance. We have recalibrated damage and adaptation. So I encourage you to look at this graph. The previous adaptation, the previous damage curve in black was aligned to the literature of the times, so the 2013, 2014 literature. Now we have revised it and compare ourselves to the latest literature. So Omar and Sterner 2017 provide a good overview of the recent estimates. So the model, our estimates is the red curve. So actually up to 2 degrees, we have maybe a pessimistic estimates or rather high damages compared to the literature. After 2 degrees, we somehow align with the literature without catastrophic damages. So it's important to note that for 2 degrees and above, we don't consider catastrophic damages. We are calibrated to SSP2. So I'm not going to explain all the detail, but look at your top left graph. These are greenhouse gas emissions over time until 2100, and basically we followed an RCP 7.0 trajectory, yielding a temperature increase more than 3.5. So now I'm going just to illustrate what type of results you can produce with such global model. Here, as an illustration, we have 4 scenarios, our baseline, which is kind of counterfactual because the damages are not internalized. Then we have a reference scenario, which corresponds to the IEA stated policies, APS, announced pledges, it's the IEA announced pledges scenario, and also NZE, which again align with the IEA net zero emission scenario. And for each of these if you want energy or climate policy scenarios, we have either no adaptation or optimal adaptation options. So again, just to illustrate the type of results we can have with this model, just look at the graph label A. These are the greenhouse gas emissions over time in gigaton CO2 equivalent per year. So again, the baseline, it's the red, which yield above 3.5. Our model estimates that the reference would yield a temperature increase around 2.5 by 2100. Our model estimates that the APS scenario would yield a temperature increase by around 2 by 2100, and our NZE trajectory would yield a temperature increase around 1.5. So NZE 1.5, APS 2, right? And REF and the rest above 2. The model can provide lots of energy results. So here, just to illustrate, we have primary and final energy use. These are the worldwide results, world results. So if you look at, let's just look at final energy 2100, we can see the strong decrease of fossil products, but it's not complete phase out because we have also CDR options in the model. And also we have electrification, obviously, and then the increase of alternate fuels like bioenergy and hydrogen. So you can see again in these scenarios the evolution of the time of the primary or final energy, electricity consumption, and so on. So you can estimate the potential energy transition which is associated with the scenarios you are considering. Also, you can look at additional issues. For instance, here I'm looking at distributional issues. So on the left part for the 4 scenarios, you have the global impact. So without adaptation, that means these are the gross damages. In the middle, when you have adaptation, this corresponds to residual damages plus adaptation cost. So you can see already that just roughly looking at the colors, right? If you go to the red, it means that you have higher impacts. You can see that the adaptation helps a lot to reduce impacts in all regions. And you can also compare these global impacts with the mitigation cost for the different regions in the different scenarios. And again, just to illustrate the type of results you can produce with this type of model, here we have tried to put the different countries or regions in different clusters. So we have here a so-called impact-dominated cluster. Again, for instance, so there will be the pink cluster. If you look at Africa, for instance, the global impacts are always, these are in percentage of GDP, always higher than the mitigation cost in the 2 scenarios, APS and NZE. Then we have what we call a mixed burden economy cluster, where basically, for instance, take Brazil. It's always about the same climate change impacts and mitigation cost, again, at percentage of GDP. And then we have a cluster we have labeled mitigation dominated. So Canada is a good example. Mitigation cost is quite high in terms of percentage GDP compared to the impacts. So it's less than 1%, 0.5% the impact, but the mitigation cost is 2.5 to 3% GDP. Yes. So again, just an illustration of the type of result, global results, regional results you can generate with such integrated assessment model. Quick conclusion. So I was presenting a specific class of decision tool called integrated assessment models to evaluate not only energy, but also climate policy. AdMerge is a relatively recent IAM, which has the characteristic to be able to look not only at mitigation, but also adaptation strategies. And as illustrated, it can also look at distributional impacts, equity consideration across regions, and so on. And that's it for me. Again, thanks to all the students that have been participating over time to the development of this new AdMerge, and especially AdMerge 2.0, and all the sponsors, including the EMH. So, merci, Edouard. Thank you, Edouard.
Thank you.
That's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Oliver. As we have seen, Oliver showed us when we look at globally which parameters we need to include, and the modeling this is really a delicate, hardworking team effort required. Am I correct, Oliver? So you are
absolutely
really
not only it's a team effort, but it's
okay.
many years over many years.
So we need to include all related parameters in energy modeling. Thank you very much. Then we will have questions to ask him also. But now let's give the word to Ece Özdemiroğlu, our dear colleague. He is going to show us economic input to modeling. Because when you don't, our life is with economic decisions are made. So if we don't include something which needs to be included, then the decisions we take are not really correct decisions. They're artificial decisions. So how to model economy also and make an input in modeling? The floor is yours, Ece, please.
Thank you very much. Merhaba hocam, teşekkürler. Merhaba Türkiye Pavilyonuz. Başarılar dilerim COP'ta. Hello everybody, I am from Turkey, so I wanted to say hello in Turkish to start with. But I'm based in UK, I'm an environmental economist. And I changed the subtitle of my talk listening to Eduard. I think it's time that economists became better team players in modeling. And modeling is already very difficult, as both my colleagues have presented, and what I'm suggesting is probably going to make it even more difficult. But we have the evidence, we have the drive, and I think next the developments in modeling is trying to do that. As environmental economists, our job is to uncover the hidden economic value of nature. And I still have to clarify to many of my clients that nature includes climate. And even though we're in climate COP, everyone says this COP is the nature COP. We still need to remind that if we don't look after nature, we're not looking after climate, we're not looking after our economy. We use this evidence, we use the proof of economic value of nature in supporting decisions for policymakers and businesses, and for changing behavior of individuals and businesses again. I am a microeconomist, so most of my work and examples are at the firm or individual or household level, but still I think what my message applies at macro level too. And it's a simple message. It's in this case pivots on GDP, gross domestic product. Gross domestic product, which is an input to Olivier's and I'm sure Eduard's many models, this is our starting point. And it is a good place to start, but it cannot be the only thing we take into account when we talk about economic impacts of climate change or adaptation. I will go as far as saying it's a flawed measure of economic success. And as Tanay was saying, that if we measure the wrong thing, we are not giving a chance to adaptation, mitigation pathways or investments that produce other things than just increase GDP, because we're not counting them, as success, we're not including them in cost-benefit analyses, or we're not including them in models. And my criticism is not of modeling, my criticism is of economists who have not managed to go beyond GDP in most of our work, unfortunately. Why is this important? It's important in three ways. GDP excludes anything that's freely provided. It only includes things in the marketplace. And of course, market economy is very important, but it's not the only thing. There is life outside markets, and we have the means, both as scientists and economists, to measure how big what's happening freely around the market economy, and we must use them in our decision making. I'm sure the audience there will have heard ecosystem services, natural capital, etc. They're only included in GDP to the extent that we trade them. Also, very paradoxically, GDP grows every time we make an environmental mistake. If we have an industrial pollution, the money we spend in cleaning up grows our GDP. But the loss of resources, loss of environmental quality doesn't enter into GDP as a negative amount. Yes, there are many efforts to do green GDP, natural capital accounting, etc. But when most people report GDP, they don't include these things. But it is in this second bullet point where most of our work lies. We're trying to avoid damage to environment. And also GDP says nothing about how the wealth is distributed and who wins or loses when GDP grows or contracts. And that's very, very important. I think Eduard mentioned about including stakeholders into modeling exercises. But if you don't value how their lives will change, how the different groups will be affected by your different pathways in quantitative as well as in narrative words, I don't think we can ask their full collaboration. So we need to make sure that we're measuring everyone's who wins and who loses. Usually economists do this at the end. We have total costs, total benefits of things, and we have a look at who's going to be affected. But really we have to think about who will be affected from the very beginning, from day one of our modeling exercises, whether they're micro or macro models. Because economy depends on all the capitals. And we know this, we talk about this. For years and years now, we've been using capitals approach, but we only are regularly measuring what's produced capital, a little bit of, labor costs. Olivier mentioned labor, I think. And as I said, what we trade in the markets from nature, energy, timber, fish, but not the ecosystem services like pollinators, like carbon capture or release. And very little, we're not very good at valuing social capital, but we know climate change affects society beyond the market economy, beyond labor, beyond health even. It is cause of a lot of political unrest and inequality, and even predicted to cause more international migration, for example. We do need to include these risks into our models so that we're not surprised when things happen in the future. In the micro level, this is the kind of model we use when we are trying to understand how dependent an economic entity is on nature. We look at the natural capital assets they own or they depend on. So they might depend on the availability of water or flood risk or the existence of a safe and predictable climate going forward. We look at what kind of natural capital they are dependent on and in what ways. So flows of ecosystem services or abiotic services like minerals and energy resources. And how do the different beneficiaries benefit from nature? And we are able to, this is my colorful model. We use this all the time at the micro level, but I know it's also used at macro. So we're trying to look at how nature, the quantity, quality, extent or condition of natural assets, anything from habitats to any kind of habitat basically, and where it is and how it's used and what kind of ecosystem services are provided, how the benefits reach humans, and these are just three boxes here, but there's of course these are addition to the what measured directly by GDP, and some of these also are captured in GDP. And then we're looking at the beneficiaries of whether they're local people, businesses, public sector or wider society. And then when it comes to advising, supporting decisions, then our decision makers are looking into what kind of external factors, what kind of risks are affecting either nature or the way ecosystem services are provided or accessed, and what kind of management actions that they can take by either investing directly in nature, like nature-based solutions, or by investing in other capitals. External factors could be socioeconomic change, it could be political change, it could be climate change, of course, and the way that we invest in other capitals could be anything from technology to awareness raising, AI, and the different governance systems, institutional systems, as well as nature-based solutions, as I mentioned. And it is possible from an economic analysis point of view to try quantify most of these boxes that you see. Obviously to different levels of confidence and to different levels of detail. But what's important, at least at the micro level, but I think it applies in macro too, that I'll go back to what Olivier said. This is team effort at all levels. Numbers are of course very, very important, and they have to be trustworthy, they have to be transparently reported. However, what really matters is to take people, decision makers, through this process, to understand how dependent we are on nature, well beyond GDP and income, profits of a business. And I'm not the only one who says this. This is from the United Nations system of ecosystem accounting at the national accounting level, and it does show how small the GDP boundary is in the way that environment and society links in the environmental accounting world. The same thing can be done for organizational accounts as well. We know that businesses make decisions, whether it's to do with their own profit projections or how they're going to achieve net zero. They look at their financial accounts, an income statement and a balance sheet. And we are able now to do this for environmental, natural capital impacts and dependencies as well. At the international level, a new ISO standard was just published last week on natural capital accounting for organizations. I'm just passing this through. Just my penultimate slide. This is from Forestry England. They are the managers. They are the managers of public forest estate in England. They started doing a natural capital accounting exercise more than 10 years ago. Their aim was that they knew they provided a lot of benefits to society that was way above what they could earn in financial cash flows in the marketplace. And you can see timber almost is disappearing in the recent years because they're still harvesting sustainable timber. This is not a decline in the quantity of timber they harvest, but it's an increase in the valuation of other benefits they provide, the public benefits they provide. And imagine if Forestry England people made their decisions about what to invest, what to do about net zero or climate adaptation based entirely on what can be captured in financial accounts or GDP. That would be just the orange line and a little bit of the blue. They would make very, very different decisions compared to what decisions they can make, knowing that they might, the decisions might generate a lot more benefits, even though those benefits are not in the financial accounts, or because they're public estate directly contributing to nations' wealth. Finally, if we invest in nature, whether it's for climate mitigation or adaptation or anything else, we know that we have returns in the form of sustained income and profits. Only the formal ones of those, market ones of those, are in GDP. We also know that it can increase the resilience of the economy in terms of avoiding future costs. We have to be very careful to make sure that those are included in our projections. And of course, we can provide broader health and well-being to the society, and we definitely don't capture them routinely. And if our models don't measure these things, then we're not going to be able to select the best options that give us a little bit of all of these three returns and more. That's my message, basically. Think bigger, be better team players as economists. But also, if you are working with economists, push them to be better at capturing more than the GDP.
Thank you. Better economics, better life. Okay, so thank you very much. Now, of course, we are trying to see the relations, interactions of nature and human activities. We are trying to recover our position for a livable future, cities, etc. Meanwhile, we trust on renewable energy technologies. We say, I'm one of the founders of Turkish Wind and Solar Energy Associations at that time, and we paid for it. I paid for it. I lost my job because renewable energy is good, I said. But anyway, now it's really progressing a lot. It's cheaper, and we have many wind turbines all over the world, and China is leading in this photovoltaics panels. So now we have an industry developed, and our colleague over here is a part of the Global Wind Energy Council and working over there as a part of this, and Global Renewable Energy Alliance. I am also part of this World Wind Energy Association, etc. But now, how are we going to handle this situation without damaging the nature? And I think she's going to explain us how they are going to recycle blades, photovoltaic panels, etc. So we need to recycle them, not to make a distraction while trying to do something nice. Evdeki pirince giderken, okay, there is a saying in Turkish like this: to do something nice, you destroy something else. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Stay here in the Turkey pavilion. I love Turkey. It's an amazing country, and your pavilion, all COPs are beautiful, just amazing. I learn a lot in these presentations. I need to thank you again. And yes, I work in the Global Wind Energy Council. We have 1,500 members, and we are in more than 80 countries. And also work in the Global Renewables Alliance. We represent the wind, solar, green hydrogen, hydropower, and thermo. Yeah, it's not thermoelectrical. It's geothermal. Yes, we don't have geothermal in Brazil, so it's far away from me. But GRA represents geothermal as well, and grids. We have a pledge for improved grids. Grids is a very huge problem to accelerate energy transition, to accelerate new renewables projects. So we are working a lot with grids to try to have more renewables projects without these bottlenecks from the grids. So everybody knows renewables don't need this dirty resource from the fossil fuels. We have renewables energy from sun, from water, from wind. So if you think about renewables, is a clean energy. But how the professor said, we need to think more and try to make this energy friendly of the environment without.
We need to reduce the externalities of them.
Yes. And this is about supply chain. We use a lot of steel and a lot of this material to make the blades. I don't know this name in English, but this material in the blades is difficult to recyclate. The steel is very easy. So, but this material in the blades is difficult. So we are investing in research to try after the project ends in 20-25 years, operating and generating energy. We need to recycle this.
Bring the microphone close.
Okay, sorry. We need to recycle the blades. So we are investing a lot in research, and we also discover some uses for these blades after the project ends. The project duration is like 20, 25 years. After that, we need to make this end the project and give another place to the materials. For steel is very easy. We can recycle. It's everybody knows how to do that. It's very valuable to use this steel and make another product. But for the blade, it's difficult. And for the panel solars, it's difficult too. But we are investing in research, and we are searching and finding other uses in construction, in reuse from some other like pavements, like in buildings. It's a resist material, and we are find the way to take advantage of this material to use in other things. Another concern we have is during the operation, like for offshore wind, the big structures in the sea, how make this a good structure for the environment, and make this not prejudicial for the whales, for the fish, for the corals, for the fishermen, because we need to think about the environment, and you need to think about the population, the community. So we need, like the professor said, you need to plan. If you have plan, we can reduce the impacts. We can think about what impacts we can't reduce, so we need to mitigate or we need to compensate. And then we need to recyclate the waste and make the positive impacts better. Like the structure in the sea can be an artificial reef, can boost the population of the fish, protect this area from the overfishing. So we can create in an offshore wind farm, we can create a place to boost the marine fauna and make this a good thing for the environment. And there is no risk like a oil and gas platform, in offshore oil and gas platform. It's very bad because there is this big risk to have how can I say, accident, and it's a complete mess. And a good operation and offshore platform also have this continuous liquid of little oil all the time. But so in the perfect conditions, this continue to be a bad thing for the environment. This don't happen in offshore wind, so we can create and take advantage of this condition. And it's very important continue with this planning and trying to invest in research and development of new courses to study about recycling. We really need to think about the materials in the turbines, in the solar panels, in the batteries. In Brazil, we have some companies recycling batteries very well and using the lithium, all the metals, and reusing this, and the plastic can be recycling as well. So if you planning, if you invest, we can have the great solutions.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's one of the arguments of the European Green Deal. We have zero waste as one of the European Green Deal 2050 for Europe, and also globally also the countries have such perspectives. So it needs to be planned, and step by step the future scenarios should be made for recycling. And we plan, but if we don't plan something which we need to plan, that's the way you lose your freedom. if you do something in life for young people which you should not do, or if you don't do something you need to do, you lose your freedom. Okay, so this is important. So modeling helps to understand what is good, what is bad with scenarios. Thank you very much. Now I would like to tell you if anybody has a question. Otherwise, if you don't have a question, you may have a question, please tell your questions. Then I will ask the panelists a tour, 2 minutes each, what to take over from this panel discussion. And, so we will hear about them and we finalize it. Any questions from the audience to the panelists? Any questions? Any questions? No. Okay. Now let's start again with the same order. Who wants to talk first? Who feels?
I can go.
Okay,
I can
please.
try.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
Please. So 2 or
So
3
you want me
minutes
to
each, or maybe more.
summarize
No
what we-
problem. We have
Yeah.
time, because thank you very much for your valuable time. And as we see over here, when we come together with different knowledge, information, this is provides the conditions for using our good quality as human beings to talk together, decide together, and own the results together. So that's why this was a good panel in that sense. So we have time. I don't put any constraint. 2 minutes, I said. It can be 5 minutes also, please.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me, the key learning, and this is what we've been also hearing with our work with IRENA and long-term energy scenario planning. So I think I mentioned some of the key word in my presentation, but Etche and Olivier also re-emphasized this. I think modeling and energy planning and planning in general, it should be a team sports, and I think we are all looking toward more multidisciplinary in our works. Economists should work with engineers, should work with physicists, should work with communication specialists, should work with policymakers, should work. So there's so many to make those modeling exercise and planning exercise valuables. We need a diversity of perspective, a diversity of angles, a diversity of inputs, and I mean, those are not things that you input into a model and you expect to happen. Those are not crystal ball model either. They're there to support the decision making. So the more perspective we have, the better. The more stakeholder involvement we have, I think, the better. And I think a key lesson for me as well is that each government, each country need to do probably better job in providing more transparent access to data as well. Otherwise, it's difficult to try to model anything without the good data at all, maybe economic data or energy data or climate data, of course. And if you even we've discussed about energy modeling mostly on my side and Olivier, but then this other indicator, environmental modeling, land use, water, air pollution, they face the same issues and the same problem as well. So I think, thank you for making this panel a reality. I think it showcased that there's different expertise that are needed to take those complex decisions. But again, collaborative work will get us, I think, far away and will bring us closer to some of those key objectives. So I'll stop here, but for me, it's really a testimony to this collaborative work and multidisciplinary work that we've seen today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lament. Now, Oliver. Oliver, that's your turn.
Yes. So I will be briefer than Edward, as usual. I mean, in a nutshell, yes, modeling is a team effort, definitely, especially in an integrated assessment context where you bring, or you have to bring different expertise to represent the economy, to represent the energy system, climate, and so on. But also, I would like to remind you of another perspective. I mean, as a modeler myself, adhere to the principle, which I believe is attributed to the statistician George Box, which is all models are wrong, but some are useful. So we have to be reminded that a model basically is a simplification of reality. So we always have to take with a grain of salt. And I think that the effort of comparing this effort of comparing model is extremely useful, because every models are some strong assumptions, and by comparing them, you are trying to find more robust, I would say, insights. So that's my take, my contribution to the panel.
Thanks. Ece, it's your turn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I love hearing the collaboration lesson from my two colleagues. We've never met really before this panel, but I wholeheartedly agree with what they say. I've got three key messages, I guess, is that collaboration is the best competitive strategy, I think, in this case, not just for us information evidence providers, but for politicians and for countries and for businesses as well. Secondly is that we have to remain curious. This is a very tough job. We are in COP30. We probably said the same things in COP1. But we have to persevere and we have to be curious. And I think that sometimes the most effective way of doing that is asking challenging questions. Yes, we are evidence providers, but modelers at the end asking very tough questions, right, of the data and of the participants. Ask people. I ask businesses all the time. I say to them, look, you know all your machinery, you know all your people, you know how much money you spend on renovating your pipelines, your infrastructure, you put money aside for future, you plan for all this. You also tell me you depend on water, or you depend on flooding being managed, etc., anything to do with nature. But you don't model that, you don't pay any attention to that. Why is that? Of course we know reasons why, but why is that is a very, very powerful question, because if they can't answer it, they know that they need to do something, and the first thing they will do is understand the risks and plan for it. And finally, there isn't just one answer. I think Olivier's point is so important, because us environmental professionals are under immense pressure to prove our evidence, to make our confidence intervals narrower and narrower. And sometimes people ask us and all of you there for more robustness than they would ask from financial projections. And I spent 30 years bowing to that request and working really hard to improve the robustness of my evidence. But actually, it's now time to stand up for that kind of request. If they're not asking that kind of confidence from anything else, they mustn't expect it from environmental or economic models. And we'll only learn by doing. I think we're at that level. So Godspeed, as they say in England. Good luck to you all.
Thank you, Ece. Now, finally, Roberta, tell what you're feeling, then we will close it.
Thank you so much. I think this very important approach in this panel, it's well, about renewables. We always talk about we need to triple in renewables, we need to have more renewables, but it's very important to think about even a renewable project needs to be planned, needs to be considered the negative impacts for the environment, for the society, and try to avoid, try to minimize, and try to make this energy transition just for the people, for the environment, for the world. We really need this energy transition, but we can do that in the right way if we plan. So thank you so much for this approach, for this vision. It's very important, it's very rare to see, and it's game changer. It's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give an applause to our panelists. Thank you very much. Their valuable time we taken, and we'll stay in contact. Thank you very much. Let's make this our first interaction of our life all together. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.